was a movie and it started now, forget about whatever financial disasters you've had, personal failures, relationship failures. What would the hero of your life's movie do right now?
Hello and welcome to Dad's Dating After Divorce, the only podcast dedicated to dads traversing the wild and interesting world of dating after divorce. My name is Jude Sandoval. I'm the founder of The Divorce Advocate, and my co-host is Dallas Bluth, dating and relationship coach from Black Box Dating. How are you doing this week, Dallas?
I'm doing fabulous, Jude. Just got back from a few days up in the mountains. Wonderful harvest moon, all the autumn colors. I'm feeling refreshed and recharged and ready to dive in this morning. How you doing, man?
Yeah, this is the best time of year. I love it. It's great being up in the mountains. Yeah, we're planning to get up this weekend too with the kiddos. It's just refreshing and awesome. We live in God's country, so we're truly, truly blessed to be here. Not to diminish anywhere else across the country, but this is just an amazing place. So, all right. Well, let's jump in. The topic is decoding what women are putting on their dating profiles. Maybe just decoding women in general might maybe be a good one.
Episode? Is that all we get to do this in? One episode?
That would be a years-long series, I think. So, and then, and trying to, marry that with decoding what we're thinking would be, pretty, we'd solve the world's problems, basically, if we could figure that out. But we're going to do it in the context of kind of the dating profiles and what that's like, because as a divorced dad, we have a limited amount of time. And I have found in my experience with the dating profiles and also just in general communication that I've wasted just a ton of time. So this is kind of dear to my heart because I know that you can be more effective and more efficient. And again, you don't know what you don't know. I didn't know. I wasted a ton of time. I've learned the hard way. So that's why I want to share this. And we got a really good example. I was doom scrolling last night. Yes, I do that once in a while. Get sucked into the vortex. And I ran across an Instagram post about this woman in San Francisco area, the Silicon Valley area, she's 41, 42 years old, and she bought a bunch of billboards across the metro area there, and she put her picture up with a website, and her website is marylisa.com. And so those that are listening, you can kind of follow along. If you want to stop right now, pull out your phone, go to marylisa.com, marylisa.com. You can follow along because if you're listening and you're not watching this, you're not going to be able to see our examples. But so she built this website, and the whole thing is she wants to find a husband. So she has done a marketing campaign. Literally, this is a pretty. The first thing you said is, "Wow, this is a huge budget." Those billboards are not inexpensive. Very, very expensive. She has done a great job with videos, with photographs, with a nice professionally made website. It's broken down really well. So I will give her that. She's doing a tremendous job of marketing herself. And so I want to dive into it a little bit because it was very interesting to me to kind of read through it. Basically what it is it is a much more detailed dating profile, right? So those that are not yet on dating apps, congratulations, good for you. But
don't start. Don't start if you can avoid it.
Don't get sucked in, maybe. But for those of you you know that you kind of each one of the dating apps has kind of a different way in which you do it. But you're basically sharing some general information about yourself, and you can go into details. You have a bio, all of that. So that is good. And what I'll say, and let's just talk about the good and bad of that first, because I feel that part of that is good, but part of that is also very limiting because it doesn't allow the opportunity for exploration, right? Exploration and the adventure and the interest in learning about somebody. You kind of just X them out or swipe left or whatever they call it because of whatever it might be. So I like that it helps us to connect. I don't like that it can be, depending on your mindset, very limiting. What are your thoughts around it?
We're talking here about the dating platforms in general and the apps. Yeah. So the thing about the strange phenomenon with the dating apps is it gives us the illusion of lots and lots of options. Emphasis on the word illusion. There's, dozens, hundreds, of potential dating opportunities out there, and we are swiping left and right because we think that there is this huge supply there. When you're in real life, when you're, in a supermarket, in a bar, on the street, looking at your neighbors, friends of friends, looking for who are the single people, there are not literally hundreds of options in front of you. So to your point, you end up slowing down, you end up taking more time, and you end up giving more opportunities and more attention, and you take more seriously and you value the opportunities that cross your path. Where the dating app shows up, it gives you the illusion of lots and lots of options. And when we have this huge abundance, it's supply and demand. When there appears to be a huge supply, the value goes down in our mind. We're like, well, there's, this is like gravel, this is like sand. There's just tons of it out there. And you don't stop and look at each individual person with the same attention, with the same really value out of the gate. And but at the same time, like you said, it does solve a certain problem of if everyone that was single was walking around with a hat on that said, I'm single, and we could identify each other, that would solve the problem. That, in a sense, is what these dating apps appear to do on the surface, is they sift up to the top of the population, the people that are single. But even with that, you know this, you go on the dating app, you see the most attractive candidates being thrown at you immediately. A lot of times they haven't been on that website in months or years. That's the algorithm playing a game in order to get us to be engaged with it. I could go down a million different rabbit holes here, so I'm going to rein it in and ask you, which one do we want to go down first?
We might do a deep dive into dating apps at some point here, because I think it's good to demystify and talk about some of what you talked about, the algorithms. There are fake profiles that's been discovered that many of these apps have fake profiles on them to do exactly what you described. Create this feeling of abundance around there. And to your point about being able to identify single people, that's one of the things I think I hear guys say, "Oh, that's great. It saves me the awkward conversation of, oh, hey, how you doing? Are you dating anybody? No, okay, bye." Like, okay, and I understand that, I respect that, but if you can't get that far in real life, you're going to have trouble even on the dating sites, because at some point you're going to have to meet them in real life. If you can't approach and have just a few minute conversation or a conversation, extended conversation, and then ask somebody if they're single or ask them out, then you've got more things to work on than being on the dating app. So, all right, so the other thing I want to premise this with also is we're talking one-sided here. We're talking about women, and we're talking about their profiles. We're talking generalities here also. So before we start getting any hate email about, well, same for men, and da-da-da. Yes, that's true. There are things, failure to launch, like all that stuff too, right? Okay, we know that. We understand that. We recognize that. But we're talking about one side because our audience is really looking and needing to know and understand how to decode this stuff, what it might really mean, how does it save them time, how can they really connect. So that's my disclaimer before.
Jude also secretly loves hate mail, so go ahead and send him all the complaints that you have. I know he says that, but the truth is he loves it.
Dallas just says that because I am the one that gets the emails. So anyway, okay. All right. So I will say the first thing, let's talk about, she has on her site a page, and it just says non-negotiables, and she has a detailed list of everything from a partner, from age, education, politics, physical build. So what is your gut reaction to that? Is it intimidating, or is this a good thing? Like, she's laying out exactly, and I look at that and I go, yeah, not for me.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm going to start with the fact that this is a woman with a budget, who's,
Big budget.
spending literally tens of thousands of dollars, if not over $100,000 on a marketing campaign to promote herself. And then she's saying, these are my non-negotiables. Like, okay. So I'm just going to say that women on their dating profiles, and even a lot of times on first, second dates, they love to throw out this checklist. He has to be this tall, he has to be making this much money, he has to do it. And there is a mindset, I guess, that they're coming from where this makes sense. The problem is, those aren't the dudes that they're fucking. Those aren't the guys that they're actually giving their attention to. So,
right.
This is the difference between stated preferences and actual behavioral preferences.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, like, as guys, and this is the real trap, as a guy, we think, oh, I'm supposed to meet this checklist. The men that I work with, they, we'll have these conversations. We had a Friday night out in the street, last week. And one of the guys was like, so, my home is almost completely paid off. I've got this great job. I've got this going on. I go to the gym. I'm dressed up. He is basically describing himself in a checklist format. And yet he's not getting the attention that he wants. And I told him, the checklists are not the thing that actually create the experience that gives you the response you want from a woman. The checklist is the thing that comes later to make sure that to make sure that you're a good fit and a good compatibility. But the chemistry doesn't come from checking off all the boxes. The chemistry comes from stepping past awkwardness. The chemistry comes from, what kind of experience does the woman have when she's in your presence? Okay, I'll get off the soapbox for a minute. The problem, though, and this is why the dating apps are so incredibly frustrating for men, is that on the dating apps, it's incredibly difficult to not be reduced to a checklist, to not be your height. A lot of times I don't think people put income, but certain criteria, it's hard to not be that on a dating website. It's very difficult on a dating website for a woman to have an experience of you immediately.
Right.
That leads into some of the secrets of doing online dating effectively, which we can get into if you like. But those checklists, guys absorb them, we use them, we apply them, thinking that's what women want. But the truth is, you can have all those criteria and should be like, yeah, but I'm just not really feeling it. I'm not really feeling the chemistry. It's like, you can't think that those checklists are really where it's at. It's not.
So I appreciated this because it, for me, helped me rule her out immediately, right? Like this, having the checklist, I look at and I go, okay, really, really narrow thought process, really maybe some control issues, maybe like all these potential personality traits that I know are not going to work well with me. So in that context, as a guy, as a dad, as a busy, I appreciate having that real specifically laid out. She goes into her political beliefs and that she won't basically date the other side of the political beliefs. So it's like, okay, well, that's great. And I think there's something to that. And that goes back to knowing what your values are. And the flip side of that is sometimes we see these bios that say fluent in sarcasm, or looking for my ride or die, or what's another one? Oh, looking for my partner in crime. It's like, what the hell does that mean? So what is the balance where, and let's decode some of those lame ones, like looking for partner in crime one makes me crazy. It's like, what does that even mean in real world like you're not going on a. So I actually have a response to some of them that I just mess with sometimes, and it talks about me going on like a crime spree, and I need somebody, an attractive woman to man the cattle prod, and I send that. It never gets a really good reaction. But so what do you do with that?
Okay, so can I go all the way back to 8th grade here for a second?
I mean, do we really have to do that?
Well, not in a romantic sense. This is actually
okay.
8th grade English class.
Oh, okay.
8th grade English class. There was something that my teacher told us that stuck with me. It's show, don't tell.
Mm.
When you say my ride or die, or you say, I want my forever person or whatever, you're telling someone, you're giving them words that are labels essentially. But what does that actually mean? What does that actually feel like? What is the illustration? Show me what I'm actually stepping into. And that is the key to doing effective online profiles. One of my top lines of all time when I was doing online dating, one of my top lines of all time, and women brought it up constantly, both in messaging and in real life when we would get together, was something to the effect of, I make my bed every morning because I like the way it feels when I crawl into it at night. Something along those lines. It was more well worded than that. But it said nothing. It wasn't like, oh, I'm a very organized guy or I'm neat and tidy. I skipped past the descriptor and I gave the illustration. When you give the illustration, it gives people a concrete picture of what's in your mind. And they can try on that picture and see whether or not that's compatible with them. So if somebody's saying a ride or die, that could be because they want some crazy bucket list companion that wants to bungee jump off of every major bridge in North America.
Right.
Or it could be a ride or die, as in, I need to know that no matter what happens in these situations, that you will listen to me. I mean, ride or die could very much be on those two ends of the spectrum. And saying I would say a cool line, but obviously Jude has made it clear that it is very not cool, but saying some kind of canned line like ride or die, people think that they're in the groove, that they're somehow being expressive appropriately. Step past those lines and get to the illustrations. So when you're designing your own profile as a guy, make sure that you're showing rather than telling. Don't use canned phrases. And then on their end, if you can, or get to the picture behind the words to find out whether or not the compatibility is actually there.
Right. So if we're looking at this profile, so opposite from Lisa, who's the 42-year-old that created this website and kind of is showing us, she's got a pretty narrow box, little small box in which anybody's going to fit, right? Could it be? Could you surmise from some of these trite sayings that are on there that maybe that person is the other end of the spectrum and hasn't quite gone through to really understand what it is that they want, right? We've talked in multiple shows before, understanding what your values are, what you're looking for, how you can be intentional. Could you look at that and say, okay, well, she's probably not really honed in on exactly what she wants, and that's not going to be for me. Again, it's hard to decipher, right? Could you say that or not?
Well, to some degree, you could say that she hasn't gotten there, or you can say that she's come to understand what she wants in life and what's really important. I mean, you can see it a lot of ways. The way I choose to see it is the vibrant woman that is really, showing what she's really after, and it's really attractive. She's the most desirable woman out there. She's and she's open energetically. She's the one that's going to be off the market the fastest. So the way I see it is women like this, that's the majority of the profiles that they write that way. And again, just to repeat what you said, guys, we have our own set of issues. We're not just dogging on women saying all the guys are doing great.
Yeah, exactly.
It is both sides. But the way I coach men towards this is, okay, so this woman is not entirely self-aware of what's actually going to be effective with her, of what she actually wants to experience. That's a Sleeping Beauty scenario. She's waiting for the right guy to come in along and give her the proverbial kiss that wakes her up. So she's got this huge list. And so if I'm on a date with a woman that's like, well, I'm looking for this, and I'm like, okay, cool. You're looking for it. That's awesome. And I'm going to wait until she's like, so Dallas, do you make this much money? Like, Dallas, I'm going to wait until she gets up the gumption to actually ask me directly, because I'm not going to sit there qualifying my resume to her checklist. That is playing into this limiting and very mental, intellectual, rationalized approach to it. She doesn't want a rationalized intellectual experience on a date. She doesn't. What she wants is a romantic, emotional experience on the date. She wants to feel like this guy's a mystery and I'm loving it. This guy is coming with all kinds of, stories and places and things that he's doing and passions and drive and direction and everything. And suddenly my list feels really boring compared to my experience of this flesh and blood man. But the thing is, that's something you can only really do in real life. You can do it a little bit over text, a little bit over the messages. But for me, when I see women that are doing that, I try to have compassion for where they're coming from, that they're like, I'm sick of guys that don't do this. That's fine. They're coming from a place where this makes sense to them. But I'm coming from a place where I want her to experience a vibrant man that is not going to sit there and try to qualify himself against her list. If she wants to ask about one of them specifically, I'm more than happy to be honest and transparent. But if she can't get with the flow and enjoy, the playfulness, I don't want to bother going down her list and answering every one of the points.
Yeah, well, and to that point, one of the fastest turnoffs for me is starting to run through that list when you're just starting to, what do you do? The one that gets me, if it's in the first 2 or 3 minutes, what do you do for work? That makes me crazy when I get that from a woman, because in my mind, that's looking at something that's external. We're talking about income or talking about wealth. To me, it's essentially the same as saying, what are your measurements? Right, to her in the first couple of minutes, it focuses on something that's totally external, has nothing to do with learning who the person is, getting to like anything around that, and that just makes me crazy. Now some of it. So you hit on the fact that maybe she doesn't quite know, and so in this particular example where it is maybe something that's a vague saying or a vague bio like that, I'll be honest. If it depends on how hot she is, if I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt, right? So if she's pretty hot, I'm going to be like, okay, well, I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt. Maybe she doesn't have things quite refined in her mind, or maybe she even just doesn't know how to put together a dating profile, because what you just described of show me, that's just inherently, people just aren't good at marketing in general, but definitely we're not good at marketing ourselves lots of times. And so I'll give the benefit of doubt if she's really hot, right?
And that's fine. and to your point, if she's really hot, she doesn't have to. Most guys aren't reading the profile anyways. Most guys aren't paying attention. They're not trying to do it. She's like, why am I going to bother putting all of this out there? I'll just put a few pictures, that guys swipe right on, and I'll wait for the guy that has cute pictures and writes back to me, and then we'll work out the rest in person. That brings up an important point of how much effort is somebody really putting into all of this. To bring it back to the anomaly, though, of the woman that is like taking out billboards, she must be, from this criteria and all the politics and everything, she must be looking for a 0.5% or less of the male population that she's looking to connect with. And I'm sorry, I feel like she's whittled, her material down to a sliver at this point. That I feel like that's the thing that's probably, creating the biggest challenge is she's probably too much up in her head and too dialed in. It's like, we have to let this breathe a certain amount. We really do.
Yeah. Well, and I feel a little bit sorry for her because I have experienced and dated lots and lots of women this age group that have experienced. One of the things she talks about is, why am I single? Because that's the question I'm sure she gets all the time. And that's, why am I single? Why have I never married? Why don't I have any kids? And she goes through all the reasons of why why that's in fact true. And one of them is, let's see if I can find that here. Well, maybe not. One of them is that, so in my 20s and 30s, I was focused on my career, really growing my career, doing this. And so it hasn't been something that is important to me until now. And she wants to have a family. So one of the things she talks about in her bio is, and she really specifically lays it out, in 2 to 3 years, I want to be married and start having kids. And she's 42 years old. So this is already, I remember when my ex and I were having our last child, she was like 35, and they were like, they call it a geriatric pregnancy.
Over the age of, I think, 35 or 36. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. I didn't even know that, but I mean, I'm not supposed to know that. I'm not a woman, but this is pretty common. She's well past that. And I've since looked at the statistics and figures of getting pregnant, or if you have to do IVF or something like that, the percentages go so far down for that to happen. So some of this, so I say that to say some of this stuff is because I feel like she and many other women have been fed this whole thing, like, you don't have to worry about biology, and you don't have to worry about timelines, and you can have it all, do it all. It's the same mentality of you're okay, buddy. Don't worry about it. Like this, it's just not how we work physiologically, biologically. No. So then to me, I look at that and I say, okay, there's a little bit of disconnect from reality in your life here. Like, not only do you have all this stringent stuff, and like you said, you're looking for the 0.5, what you want in a life and a lifestyle, probability is really, really low that you're going to be able to achieve that.
Well, and as far as my point of view is, when it comes to family, children, marriage, future, all of that, that's a 2-person design. And she's saying, this is my picture and you better be on board with it. I mean, yes, okay, you know what you want, you know what you're going, but the more you constrain that picture, and the more you demand that that the partner conform to it and fit right into it, you're diminishing your dating pool, but you're also like, I would look at that and go like, geez, how much of a say do I have in how any of this is going to go? I mean, and that's a turnoff for a man, to feel like you're giving up your freedoms to someone else's that's decided how it's going to be. I mean, that's, for most men, that's just not going to be very attractive. And to come back to your point, there are certain things that are realities. Money is a reality that everybody has to deal with. Fitness level, body type, those are real things. For guys, height is a real thing. There are definitely ways that you can get around all of these elements, but they're real. And the fact that a woman has a biological clock running, yeah, this definitely is there. And if I'm a man that really, really wants to have children, the truth is, a woman that's 35, 32 is going to be more attractive to me than a woman who's 40, 42 looking to have children, simply because we have time on our side. And there's no two ways about it. We have more breathing room. We have more options. We have more things that we can do. And I really hope this woman with the billboard accepts that and acknowledges that, because that is simply, there's a wealth of time available in other women that she's not bringing to the table. And you can rant and rail and say should all day long. It shouldn't be like that. It shouldn't be like that. But to your point, there are certain facts that we just can't change.
Yeah, you can't. And so the other thing that's a total, you talk about it being really narrow and a turn off. The other thing is there's an application process on her site. So it's like, click here to apply. It's like, oh yeah. Okay. Number one, any guy that does that is not going to be a self-respecting guy that she's going to want to marry. And so this is just like, it's just never going to happen. But so there's another one. And this one is really pertinent to the divorced dads listening. She puts preferably no kids. Like, that's her statement. She says she's looking for a man aged 35 to 45. Well, which in itself kind of goes to this lack of reality, if you will. She's 42. She's looking for a guy 7 years younger and only like 3 years older than her. That's probably not going to happen. 35-year-old guys aren't looking for 40-some-year-old women to then have families with and have babies. Again, that's we're talking in generalities. There's maybe some guys that would be. She's an attractive woman. I could give her that. But looking, if somebody's has their values defined and what they want, and men, she's probably not falling into that category. But then she says, quote, preferably never married with no children. And so this is a phrase that we get as divorced dads lots of times. So what is she really saying? Because it doesn't say no kids. It says preferably no kids.
I mean, preferably, I guess it means if you, I'm just going to guess that if you check all these other boxes, I will still consider you if you have these items. I'm going to guess like this, but don't expect yourself to be at the top of the list. Yeah.
Is it about not having baggage? Is that part of it, that she just wants something? So I'm feeling from her is like, she just wants something clean. Exactly. Yeah. She wants a clean slate that she can paint her picture onto. That's what I see. Again, because she has a very clear picture of what she wants her life to look like. I spent my 20s and 30s working in my career. I've done this, I've done that. And now what I want the next part of my life to look like is this. I'm sorry. I'm just going to say that's a rather vain way to look at your life. If you actually want to be partnered up with somebody, it is a co-created picture of what life looks like. There doesn't feel to me like there's a whole lot of room. I haven't looked at her website, but there doesn't feel to me like the whole lot of invitation for a man to come in and speak into what would look amazing to him. It just feels like there's maybe a 5 to 10% margin for him to kind of like maybe have a man cave in the backyard or something, like maybe, but like that's it. Like it seems like it's like she's already like painted 95% of the campus, and the guy has like very little room left to work with. And I don't know any man that is attracted to that situation. Right. And it's unfortunate for her because she is not. So let's go to the masculine feminine dynamic. She's not leaving herself open to having a man lead and create and co-create that environment for her, which is partly what women want, the sense of adventure and romance and all of that. She's got all of this criteria there. She's just not open to all that, which is the sexiest, most fun part of establishing and having a relationship with somebody.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when you come to a date, the best dates are you had your checklist, you had your questions, she had hers, and both of you forget them completely because you go off on these amazing, spontaneous tangents. That's the very best that you can. And again, a woman that brings this checklist to the table, what I tell the guys is go ahead and let her say the checklist, spend it, but don't play into it. Don't feel that you have to answer all of these. And if she's incredibly rigid about coming back to them, well, I would say be playful with it. You know, and, what do you do for a living? If your answer is, well, as little as possible, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
I use the George Costanza on my hand model.
Yeah, right. There you go. Yeah.
And then I just want to see what their reaction is.
Exactly. Because if they are more interested in the checklist than they are in being playful in the moment, you have to ask yourself, is this someone that you really want to be playing with? And at the other side of the spectrum, if you're just a clown and you really don't take any of this seriously and you don't have your affairs in order, like when you have a good job, when you have your finances, in order, then you can kid about it all day long and be playful because there's a foundation underneath. You have to start with having real answers to all these questions.
Exactly.
And you have your answers that make sense to you, but you want to invite her into a playful world to detach her, break the tethers and the moors from the dock so that the two of you can get out there and actually have a journey.
Right. And let's talk about that, because I think that's an awesome, awesome point. Is if you know your values, you've got your life together to whatever extent we ever have our life together, but you know who you are, being playful and having fun like that is a really great, because and you call it but if you are just a clown and you're going to have to show up at some point, and they're going to see through that really quickly. So you can feel confident, and I think guys oftentimes, just because we have this linear brain, right, compartmentalized brain, don't allow ourselves to get into that lightness and that humor, and we might get into, oh, well, this is a checklist, and okay, well, she's asking this again, and da da da. Like, try to break through. Some women just have not experienced a guy that is comfortable in his skin and is able to lead and wants to have a healthy relationship. And so this is her defense mechanism to weed out all the clowns, right? Because there's a lot of us are clowns. I've been a clown in my lifetime. So I was that person at some point too. So and then if you start to do that and you still see that real stringent of coming back to the same question, or really trying to dial it in, or trying to see if they're checking off, then and it's like, okay, this woman, I can't even break through to get to her feminine nature so that she can have a little bit of fun.
Yeah. This woman is stuck in the corporate space, romantically speaking, and we're never going to get past it. And some guys, that might be what you're looking for. Cool. But let her go find one of those guys if that doesn't turn you on.
Yeah.
Coming back to the playfulness side, I think a lot of men are told to do all the things that we do in life because this qualifies us. Literally, like, you are not qualified to have the woman that you want. You're not qualified to have children. You're not qualified to feel proud of yourself. You're not qualified to feel confident. You're not qualified to have any attention unless you do these things. There is a plenty of truth to that. A respectable man does a certain number of things in his life. He does them well, and he does them because he likes the way they make him feel. But most men stop at doing it because it qualifies him in life. The thing that really helps men is when you have done the work, and a clown is somebody who has not done the work, who has not built the character, who's not taking care of business in his life. That's a clown. Once you've done the work, realize that the humor and the playfulness, it naturally emerges on top of that because everything's taken care of. You can mess around, you can go and have a couple of drinks on the weekend. You can be playful, you can be rowdy because you've taken care of business during the week. That's what we're talking about. When you're on a date, those are your off hours. You're there to have fun. You did your work that qualified you to be there earlier that week and the years leading up. And so when you come to the date and you're wondering, how do I get to that playful place? It's because you earned it. And a man that has earned it, it's like you've brought in your big harvest and there's a feast. There's plenty to go around and you get to relax. We're in the fall season, feasting and everything. Like that is what playfulness is to a woman. Is this man has so much abundance in all the areas of his life that he can kick back, be relaxed, and laugh and play because he knows there is plenty stored in the bank, emotionally, financially, and otherwise. Yeah. That's what the playfulness is really demonstrating.
Well, and so that whole qualifying thing, and this is a tough one for dads particularly because our self-worth, self-esteem, et cetera, has taken a hit going through this. And then there's you are great dating a relationship coach, but there are a ton of them that are out there online everywhere talking about, oh, you got to get jacked, or, oh, you got to be making, level up to X dollar amount, et cetera. And so what happens is we start to think about that in the context of qualifying ourselves. And I would just say encourage the dads listening, stop qualifying yourself. Don't think about it in terms of that, but think about it what you just described, which is, do I have a vision and direction for my life? Okay, so yeah, okay, you went through a divorce, life has changed exponentially. It's very different. The relationship that you once thought was going to be for the rest of your life is no longer. That's difficult, but you have a vision or direction. So know what it is that you want to accomplish in dating. Know what it is that you want that's going to be different this time in this relationship, and then you bring that, and then then you're not qualifying yourself. You're inviting, like you always say, you're inviting that person to that vision and direction for your life. And that's going to be different for Dallas compared to Jude, right? It's different. I always use the example, like it's different between a Tom Brady and a Prince, right? Mm-hmm. Like Tom Brady was the athlete, stud, great look. Prince was just this little guy, but he was and kind of weird looking, like and very, very exotic and different. But man, did he get a lot of chicks, right? Yeah. And so, but no guy can deny that he was a stud, right? But he was like 5'8" and wore purple and fluffy shirts, and so the point being is, don't qualify yourself to all this other crap that's going in or out there. You qualify yourself by creating your vision and direction in your life, and then you go out there and guess what? There are going to be women that are going to be attracted to that. It's not going to be every woman. So you're going to get a lot of no's. Like I get a ton of no's, right? Yeah. But that's okay because that weeds it out faster, right? You don't want the no's. That creates the problem that you just got out of, which is your divorce, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And to bring it back to the dating profiles, they've shown statistically, you don't want to attempt to create a universally compatible profile, because that actually doesn't get much of a response. Like it's not a lot of negatives, but it's not a lot of strong positives either. When you essentially are repulsive to a certain amount of the crowd because you're showing who you really are, you end up being highly attractive to another part of the crowd, and the net gain is actually quite worth it. Let me That's also bring point. Back to it.
Yes, I just want to point out, guys that are listening, Dallas is world renowned for the online dating stuff in his profile. So he really, really knows what he's doing. And maybe we'll do a whole episode on that one day about your experience, what you've done with it, and why you bring such a vast amount of knowledge with it. But I just want to say that if you Google him, you'll see what I'm talking about. There's been shows about Dallas and awards, and I don't know. Is there a Dallas Bluth online profile award somewhere out there? We should start one of those.
I don't know, dude, but you're definitely going to get me in hot water. So I want to bring it back though to the single dads and that have this doubt in their mind about, their own, what they're bringing to the table. And here's the challenge that I would put out to every single dad listening to this episode. Every woman, she responds according to the experience that we're giving her. And as a single dad, you are bringing certain qualities as a man to the table that a man that's never had children and never been married cannot bring to the table. A man that's never been married can bring certain elements. Look, I'm a clean slate. You don't have to worry about all of this stuff. And also, maybe I'm not ready to get married. Maybe I'm not that type. Maybe I never will. That's all part of the never been married, don't have children crowd of men. For the single dads coming to it, realize that, I've been around. I've been, banged up a little bit because I've been through a divorce. And you know what? I really know where I stand now. That is a highly attractive trait. And when you can share that with a woman and she can experience it, her shoulders will drop. she will exhale. She will be like, this guy has been there. The rosy colored glasses have been broken at this point. This man understands what it is to be a father. He understands the responsibilities. Heck, if I've never been married, never had kids, this guy's going to be able to help us get through this in ways that a guy that's never been through it, can't. Realize that these are all traits and qualities that you as a single dad have, that the guys that don't have children and have never been married don't. And when you can focus those, channel those, when you can see those as ways that you can deliver an experience to this woman that only a single dad can, that's going to give you a competitive edge in the marketplace for certain women.
Yes.
Lean into it. It's part of who you are. Use it.
Absolutely. And I encourage guys, when they're having the conversations about their past relationship or their divorce, to speak to it in a positive manner, because that is exactly so. And it's not even a spoken thing that you have to, what you described. Well, like, I've been through a battle and I'm resilient, da, da, da. Like, they know it. If you're showing up and you're like, yeah, this is what happened, this is what it was through, and then you have this lightness and this positivity about a potential new relationship, they're like, wow, this guy's been through a war, right? Or a battle or whatever. He's come out, he's survived. It's like this is maybe going to get me in trouble. This now is like coming, like military that used to come back from battles, right? Like, they came back and they persevered, and that was attractive, right? Like, you've been through a battle. It's not the same, obviously, but that just, the hindbrain of women is just, that's going to register, and you don't have to talk about all the difficulties that you've been through or anything else. It's just going to happen.
Well, you want a seasoned player on your team, not a rookie.
Yeah, right.
You don't want the guy coming in, it's his first season. Yeah, put me out there, coach. Swinging the bat, missing, too excited. You want the seasoned player who's been through it, who's had the hard season, who's had the wins. And, and that's part of the culture, in that dugout, is you've got the seasoned players helping the rookies, really, really, step into where they need to be. And when you're a single dad, you're seasoned.
Yes.
Coming back to the slow cooker, episodes, like, you've been slow cooked, my brother.
Yeah.
Like, you've been seasoned at this point. Bring that richness. It is richness. Bring that richness to the table and present it that way. She might not have ever even thought of it that way, but when you own it and you bring it to the table, and last thing, like you said, when you have processed things inside of you and you can get to a place of lightness where you're no longer bitter, talking about the past experience, and you go, yeah, that probably wasn't such a good idea, and you can laugh about it while still taking responsibility. Again, that shows a level of maturity that us guys that don't have kids and never been married, we cannot demonstrate.
Yeah. So let's put a bow on this. Preferably, if you see preferably, can we say that means there's open opportunity, basically because there's all these checklists. If you're hitting most of these checklists, the preferably means, yeah, there's, like I was saying, well, it depends on how hot she is, right? Like, there's preferably means, okay, like, you're going to have to hit some other criteria probably, but there's an opening. So don't rule yourself totally out.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't rule yourself out. And I'm going to come back to it of don't get overly caught up in trying to qualify yourself to her list.
Yeah, true.
That's in a passive following role. If she's hot enough, if you're attracted to her, if you want to take a swing, take your swing. Now, if there's something that must be on her list, you should probably throw it. Hey, by the way, I already have kids, or whatever it is. Just put it out there as a matter of honesty. You want to put it out there, but you do not need to qualify yourself to women. You simply don't. This isn't a matter of you trying to sign up for a job and bring everything to the table. The real criteria is, how does she feel when she's in your presence? That is the real criteria that matters. Step there first. Yeah. So, prefer this, prefer that. It's like, well, why don't you see how hard you're laughing
Yeah.
once you've been with me for 12 minutes, and then we'll decide how much that preference is really important to you.
Yeah, that's funny. Okay, I want to hit on just a couple more things. One is the kind of lifestyle and core value alignment thing. You get profiles that are listed like active, right? Does that mean you need to be a marathon runner? Like, is it about shared energy, a willingness to get it? Just will you get off the couch? Like, what does that truly mean in a relational context?
Yeah. I mean, again, show, don't tell. Active. What does that mean? For me, active is literally building rock walls in the mountain. I don't think anyone else lifts rocks, digs them up, puts them in wheelbarrows, and stacks them into walls. I don't think that's anyone else's definition of active. But I can tell you it is very active.
Yeah.
These are, we have to see this as these are generic words, and we're looking for specific, concrete examples.
Okay.
And again, generic, the right way to do this is what all the coaching is about, is all of these are opportunities. When a woman says active lifestyle and you throw in there, and you throw in there 2 or 3 concrete specific ones that are at polar ends of what active could look like.
Yes.
And you make her laugh because she's laughing at the fact that she was so generic and left it so broadly open, to so many different options. Again, you've stepped right past the generic, boring label, and you're already into a shared experience through your concrete imagery that you're providing, even in a first message.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing a lot.
Don't worry about generic labels. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm hearing a lot from you with some of these profiles that are generic or maybe not very well written. Is don't get too caught up into them, but you can mitigate and try to dive deeper into it through some simple conversation. And that might be, we might get into how to do that through messages and talking. Ultimately, here's the thing, guys, get together with the person. That's going to be the way to do it and to learn about them and to really see if there's any opportunity. So all the rest of this stuff is semantics for getting in front of the person. Yeah. So I just want to lay that out there.
Yeah, and every one of these women that's writing a profile that, again, feels generic, they feel like, large labels, every one of them, they're in single mode. They're in the mode of a woman that is not in a relationship, which is not going to be very much in her feminine. When you meet her in person, when you interact with her over text, and you show up with a very attractive lead, you're going to shift her into a different mode. And suddenly the words are going to change. The labels are going to change. And this is what I call a sleeping beauty scenario. When you show up with the right humor, when you show up with the right confidence, when you show up with the right energy, what was a boring profile becomes a vibrant woman.
Yes.
That most of these women are, to certain guys, they are sleeping beauties waiting to be woken up. So don't she's not all that. It's like, dude, if she is all turned on and amazing, she ain't going to be single for long. She's going to be swept up by some other guy really, really quick. You have to realize this is fruit that is higher up in the tree and maybe not fully ripe, but you have the effective capacity to wake her up and take her from a generic place to a vibrant, sexy place.
Okay. So is that true? This is the final one, and it's probably the hardest one, and we don't have a ton of time to get into it, but is that in fact true when you get the political statements on a profile? The if you are a blank, swipe left, or this has become a real prominent filter and not even just a filter. It used to just be a filter. Now I see on lots of women's, it's like, if you are this, like, no. And I think that's pretty clear, right? But what about if they're not in the same alignment as you are politically?
So I think for a lot of people, okay, so if someone feels strong enough about politics either way to put it way out there, like no Trump supporters, if you voted for Trump, I never want to talk to you. That's a typical line that's out there. Whatever the political slant is, if it's strong enough that they're putting on their profile, it's clearly a part of their self-identity. It is part of how they see themselves and who they see themselves to be. So that's not just a wake them up situation. That is something that they derive strength from about themselves. I would ask yourself how much, I would really ask yourself, does that identity in a woman turn you on? Is that something that you really want as a man? Never mind the fact that she might be yelling at you for your beliefs or your actions or whatever. Like, never mind that part. Ask yourself, do I want to be with a woman that is being so vocal and so again, strongly identifying with that particular position? If you're like, great, yeah, because we have the same views, wonderful, go off, have little babies that have the same points of view, great. But if she's at the opposite end of the spectrum and it's a turnoff to you, recognize that it's a turnoff. And don't try to have this uphill battle of trying to change her identity in politics to be what you are. Dude, swipe left and filter her out. And you're filtering out from your side. This isn't she disqualified you. She showed you who she is. You're disqualifying her because she turned you off.
Right. Well, and that goes back to what you were saying, which is it's okay because when you're filtering out yourself or others, that's opening you to be open and attractive to some other segment that really is looking for what it is that you are. So don't feel this. There's this scarcity mentality lots of time, but I feel like divorced dads get into it and be like, oh, but she's so hot. It's like, okay, yeah. But you're like, trust me, if you haven't figured that out, and you've been through a divorce, you've got a lot more work to do. Right. Just be okay. There are more women out there. I promise you.
Okay. Let me just put that out there. There is this is not scientifically proven, but we all know it. There is no correlation between how hot a woman is and how hot sex with that woman is.
Very true.
Is no correlation whatsoever. As men, we're attracted to what looks hot, and we're like, oh, we're going to have that. Once you get there, there is no correlation. Sometimes it's hot, but sometimes it's not. But there is no direct correlation between how hot a woman appears to us and how hot the actual sexual experience and other experiences are with a woman. For me, I want to be having hot sex with a woman. And, and part of that is her physical attractiveness. But ultimately, being with a hot woman that is like, yeah, okay, there's consent. And yeah, okay, we're kind of getting it worked out, but it's not really hot. I don't see the appeal. I really don't. And when I talk with my clients and they finally land with women that, that it finally clicks with, half the time it's not who they thought it would be, but they're in a place that they couldn't even imagine feeling. With the hotness of the chemistry going back and forth.
Right. And so for me with the political thing, I feel like if they are putting out there, so what we described, which is real clear statements, that just disqualifies, right? So that's easy. The as far as aligning one way or another and putting that on your profile, for me, that also, because there's some specific things that are in alignment with a political party that are value based, and so typically now that doesn't mean see, and this is where it gets dicey. I think Dallas is. I think 80% of all people, whatever party they're in, agree on most things in life, right? So the problem in this whole polarization is that you're ruling out all these people that 80%, if you could, 80% is a good percentage anywhere. Baseball, gambling, like those are good percentages. And we're ruling so many of them out. Now, so that's a struggle that I have sometimes, although if they're putting out like I'm this or I'm that, it usually means that there are some core values. Now, there's other core values that align more importantly for me to the person, their faith. For me, it's faith is a real big one, because that's a whole, because I've created my lifestyle around that, right? So it goes to what I've created and what I've envisioned and the direction that I have in my life. But I do feel that if I do see one or the other on there, that those do correlate to a value, but maybe not rule them completely out, because I have actually dated many women that would say that they're on the different end of the political spectrum than I was, and we've had good relationships. Now the thing was and very hot sex, but the thing was it wasn't enough to get that to the point where it was going to be totally in alignment. So wrap us up with that. You don't want to rule out 80%. You probably have a lot in common, but maybe not. Is there how do you decipher that? That's what I'm asking. Okay. That's a tough one.
Yeah. Okay. So when people are very blatantly, strongly identifying with it, and they're loudly pasting on their page where they are, trust yourself. Is that a turn off for you or a turn on for you? And that's an easy swipe left or right. I think to your point, we need to realize that there's a lot of interpretation, gray area, who a person really is. In economics, they talk about heuristics. And in the economic context, heuristics is a mental shortcut that we make. Sort of like what you would call a rule of thumb. You can basically know that, saving 10% out of your paycheck every month for retirement is a good thing to do. You haven't done all the math. You haven't gone all the way down to necessarily work it all out. You just trust the rule of thumb. You're trusting the mental shortcut, the heuristic of it. Well, heuristics can definitely get in your way when you talk about something like politics, because it's like, oh, well, you're Republican. And I'm using that as a mental shortcut, a heuristic, to disqualify people because I assume that means a whole bunch of things. In a dating context, unless someone is really strongly identifying and publishing big billboards about it, unless someone's doing that, you don't want to apply these heuristics. You don't want to make assumptions about the whole person. You want to get to know the person, be honest as the person reveals themselves, but you want to get to know the person to see where the compatibilities and incompatibilities actually fall.
Right. And this also is predicated upon what is it that you're looking for while you're dating too. So if you're looking for a long-term relationship, like, to bring it back to the Lisa lady, and it's real specific and she wants to have kids and et cetera, then, and she describes herself as has a specific bent, and she's not completely non-religious. So then you might know, okay, that you can use that heuristic because as a dad, I don't want to waste too much time. It's pretty clear that she's not in alignment. It's if at best it's going to be something short term, which if that's what you're doing and you're open about that and that's your intention, that's fine. But also be clear with the person. But if you're looking, she wants a relationship, she wants kids and a family. If that's what you want to, it's probably not going to work out. So you can use that heuristic.
Yeah. And if you're a dad and you haven't figured out those values yet, that's what Jude is particularly good at, is helping to rebuild those building blocks from the ground up to put your life back in order so that you know what is really most important to you when you're going out on the dating scene.
Thank you, Dallas. Yes, that is true. Maybe we can wrap it up with that. And I will say then when you're getting into the dating pool again, there's nobody better than Dallas to help you. Not only, and so this is the thing, we talk about quote unquote dating coaches, but what we talk about a lot is approaching, et cetera. What you do a ton of is relationship, like in the relationship, which is huge and is I would argue the most difficult and challenging thing. So even guys, if you are dating somebody now, I want to point out that Dallas is a great resource for you to be able to get to whatever level you are looking to get to in that relationship. It's not just finding that relationship, it's helping you in that relationship too. And maybe we need to hit on that a little bit more, but talk about that if you want, but also let everybody know how they can get a hold of you.
Yeah, one of the things I love is that when I'm working with a man that's single and then he begins dating, and then I check in with him and I'm like, "So, you still going to hang out?" He's like, "Dallas, I need what you're doing now more than ever because I want to continue the things I was doing right into the relationship." Yeah, it's, I've worked with people that are married. I've worked with people that are engaged and, their fiance is getting pregnant and where is this going to go? And they're coming up with new challenges. That is all part of it. Dating is really, that's the hook where we start. But yeah, it goes in further. So, and check out the men's coaching program, blackboxdating.com. That'll give you all the details. And if you're in the Denver area, last Friday, Saturday of every month, we actually hit the streets live and go through all this stuff and even go up and talk to women together. So yeah. Jude,
awesome.
How can people know more about all the wonderful services that you provide?
Divorced or divorcing dads, check out thedivorcedadvocate.com. We've got resources for you wherever you're at in the process and whatever you might need. So thedivorcedadvocate.com. All right, Dallas. Well, I said I was going to keep it under an hour, and I failed to do that again as the co-host. So I'm going to have to get better at my, man, there's just so much to talk about with this. It's just, and you and I are such geeks on this stuff that we could probably just keep talking forever and ever. But hey, appreciate all your pearls of wisdom. It was another great episode. If you found some value in this, guys, please share far and wide on social media. Give us a star rating, or even better, give us some comments.
Yep. And all that hate mail, send it right over to Jude. He loves to get it. Yeah, and right. Until then, we will talk to you next week.
All right.
Be the hero of your own movie. If your life was a movie and it started now, forget about whatever financial disasters you've had, personal failures, relationship failures. What would the hero of your life's movie do right?